Kingsley was a 23-year-old young man full of dreams, but weighed down by his circumstances. Coming from an average family, he had always longed for a better life. That desire became an obsession when he met Dora, a 26-year-old woman from a well-to-do family. She was beautiful, graceful, and, most importantly, the daughter of influential church leaders. Kingsley had never seen anyone like her. He was smitten, but there was one problem: his background. Dora's family was wealthy, and Kingsley knew they would never accept him as he was. So Kingsley made a decision: he would lie. He created a version of himself that he believed would impress Dora and her family. He told her he came from a rich, prestigious family, masking the truth of his humble upbringing. To maintain the facade, he borrowed money from friends and worked extra hours to afford the lifestyle he presented to her. For months, the relationship blossomed. Dora fell in love with the charming, attentive Kingsley, believing every word he said about his background. They talked about marriage, and Dora, excited to start a life with him, introduced him to her parents. While they were initially impressed by his demeanor, there was a lingering sense of unease in her father's eyes. He had spent years discerning people's true intentions, and something about Kingsley didn't sit right with him. As the wedding preparations began, Kingsley's secret weighed heavily on him. He could feel the walls closing in, but he pushed on, hoping that once they were married, everything would work itself out. Little did he know, the truth was about to unravel. One afternoon, Dora's father received an anonymous tip that Kingsley was not who he claimed to be. Shocked and angry, he began investigating Kingsley's background. It didn't take long before the truth was uncovered. Kingsley's lies were laid bare. His family wasn't wealthy, and everything he had told Dora and her family was false. When Dora found out, she was devastated. The man she loved, the one she had trusted with her heart and future, had deceived her from the beginning. The engagement was immediately called off, and her family, embarrassed and furious, cut all ties with Kingsley. But in the midst of the heartbreak, Dora discovered she was pregnant. Confusion and shame washed over her. She was from a respected family, leaders in the church, and the thought of being an unmarried mother brought her deep shame. What would the congregation say? What would her parents think? In her despair, Dora tried to keep the pregnancy a secret, isolating herself from family and friends. She stopped eating, tormented by the thought of how much disappointment and shame she would bring upon her family's name. Her father, a devout church elder, was a man of strong principles, and the mere thought of facing him with the truth tore her apart. One night, as the stress and emotional turmoil weighed heavily on her, Dora collapsed in her room. She was rushed to the hospital, barely conscious. There, doctors revealed the heart-wrenching news: she had lost the baby. The pregnancy, already fragile due to her refusal to eat and her extreme stress, had ended in a miscarriage. For hours, Dora lay in the hospital bed, her body weak, but her heart shattered. The loss of the baby, combined with the shame of her failed engagement, left her feeling broken. She had lost everything: her love, her child, and her sense of self. Her parents sat by her side in the hospital, their faces etched with pain and worry. As the reality of their daughter's situation sunk in, they realized that all the societal expectations and the weight of public opinion paled in comparison to the life of their daughter. In that moment, they no longer cared about the church or the family's reputation. They cared only about Dora's well-being. Dora's father, the man she had feared disappointing the most, held her hand gently. "My daughter," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion, "we can always rebuild. We've lost, but we haven't lost you. And you haven't lost us." The words broke through Dora's walls, and for the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. Her father's acceptance, his love, and the promise of redemption gave her the strength to begin healing. As for Kingsley, he was left to grapple with the consequences of his deception. His dreams of wealth and status had led him to hurt the woman he loved, and now he was left with nothing but regret. The price of his lies had been too high, and he was forced to face the reality that the truth, no matter how difficult, would have been better than the web of deception he had spun.